I rested my elbows on the cool glass desk and stared out at the Manhattan skyline, my reflection faintly visible in the window. The city looked almost soft from this high up, pale morning light washing over the buildings, like it had no idea how many battles were fought in these streets every day. My assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "Madison, there's a new pitch scheduled for noon. A man named Daniel Brooks will be presenting. Should I confirm?" For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. Daniel Brooks. My first boss. The man who once laughed in my face when I dared to suggest a strategy in my very first job. "Cute idea," he had said, smirking, while the rest of the conference room snickered. I pressed my thumb against the smooth edge of my coffee mug, grounding myself. The irony was so sharp I almost laughed. Back then, I couldn't get him to take me seriously. Now my signature could decide his company's future. "Confirm," I said, my voice steady, even though my pulse hammered. As I hung up, I smoothed the sleeve of my silk blouse, my mind already rewinding to the night I walked out of his office for the last time. The sting of that humiliation had never really faded. It had only pushed me harder, fueled every late-night grind session, every risk I took. Today, he would see exactly what that humiliation created. I was 22 the first time I stepped into Brooks & Company. Advertising. I had pressed my one good blazer the night before until my arms ached, polished my shoes until they squeaked, and practiced my introduction in the bathroom mirror at least 30 times. The office smelled of coffee and carpet cleaner, and I thought it was the most glamorous place I'd ever seen. I believed I'd finally made it, the first step in building the life I'd always dreamed of. But my first big team meeting shattered that dream. I had spent 2 weeks perfecting a campaign pitch, late nights, no weekends, just me, my laptop, and takeout noodles. When it was my turn to present, my hands trembled as I stood, but I smiled anyway. "This is innovative," I said, showing my slides. "It could double engagement for our clients' social channels." Silence. Then Daniel Brooks, my boss, leaned back in his leather chair, smirking. "Engagement, huh? That's adorable," he said, drawing out the word adorable like it was a joke everyone should laugh at. The room did. My throat burned. I nodded, sat back down, and stared at my notes so no one would see the tears forming. After the meeting, I hid in the bathroom stall until everyone left for lunch. That was where I got the text from my grandmother, a photo of the silver watch she always promised me when I achieved something important. "Proud of you already, Maddie. Don't let anyone make you feel small." That night, I went back to the office, packed my things into a single box, and left my badge on his desk. No note, no goodbyes. The elevator ride down felt endless, but somewhere between the 12th floor and the lobby, a decision solidified in my chest. I would never again let someone else decide what I was capable of. The next morning, I pawned a pair of gold earrings my mother had given me and used the cash to pay for my first marketing course outside of work. It wasn't much, but it was a start, my own start. The marketing course met in the back room of a dusty community center on 14th Street. The folding chairs wobbled, and the coffee was terrible, but I sat in the front row every night, scribbling notes until my hand cramped. That's where I met Claire. She was in her late 40s, a seasoned brand consultant with the kind of confidence that made everyone lean in when she spoke. She noticed me lingering after class one night, gathering my things slowly. "You've got something," she said, tucking her notebook under her arm. "I saw your questions. You think like a strategist. What are you doing wasting your time at Brooks & Company?" I told her I'd quit. I told her I wasn't sure what came next. She smiled. "Then this is the perfect time to bet on yourself." Claire became my first real mentor. She let me shadow her on small projects, taught me how to build client decks, and most importantly, how to walk into a room like I belonged there. Those months were brutal. I worked part-time at a diner during the day, studied at night, and took every odd freelance gig I could find. Sometimes I'd stay up until 3 a.m. just to finish a campaign draft, my laptop balanced on the tiny kitchen table of my shoebox apartment. My first client was a bakery owner who could barely pay me. When she handed me a check for $250, I cried, not because of the money, but because someone trusted me with their business. Then came the breakthrough. a small tech startup Claire referred me to. I pitched them a campaign, and to my shock, they said yes. That campaign went viral in 3 weeks. My name wasn't on the press release, but I didn't care. I knew it was mine. Work snowballed from there. By 26, I had incorporated my own boutique agency. I bought my first designer handbag with money I earned, and it felt like holding a trophy. But I never bragged. Not online, not to old colleagues, not even to my parents. When they asked, I said things were fine. Part of me wanted the world to underestimate me. It gave me fuel. Late at night, I'd take out the silver watch my grandmother finally sent me after my first big client success. I'd wind it carefully, listening to the tiny tick that reminded me time was on my side. By 30, I had an office on Fifth Avenue, a small but mighty team, and a client list that included names Brooks and company would kill to work with. And I never once thought about Daniel Brooks. Until today. By the time noon rolled around, my office was spotless. Not that it was ever messy, I kept it minimal on purpose. A single piece of abstract art hung on the wall, a gift from my first successful client. My desk was clear except for my leather planner, a vase of white tulips, and the silver watch I'd set there deliberately this morning. When the knock came, I didn't look up right away. "Send him in," I said to my assistant. The door opened and there he was. Daniel Brooks looked older. His once dark hair was streaked with gray, his face lined deeper than I remembered. He wore the same expensive cologne, though, and for a dizzying second I was 22 again, clutching my trembling hands under a conference table. "Madison," he said, extending a hand. "Thank you for seeing us." I shook it briefly. "Please have a seat." He didn't seem to recognize me, not fully. Maybe I was just another executive to him, another gatekeeper in a world where he now needed favors. His junior partner began the pitch, sliding glossy folders across my desk. I didn't open mine. I watched Daniel instead, the way he glanced at me every few minutes, trying to gauge my reaction. When they finished, the room went silent. My team looked at me, waiting for my verdict. I leaned back in my chair. "Interesting proposal," I said evenly. "But before we talk numbers, I think we should address the history in this room." Daniel blinked. "History? Yes." I folded my hands on the desk. "I used to work for you. At Brooks and Company. You probably don't remember me. I was the girl who pitched an engagement campaign you called adorable." His face went pale. For a moment, he didn't speak. Then, "Maddie." I smiled faintly. "Madison Gray, CEO of Grayline Media." You could have heard a pin drop. His partner's mouth actually fell open. Daniel swallowed hard. I had no idea." "I'm sure you didn't," I said softly. "But I remember. I remember how small you made me feel in that room. And I remember packing my things and walking out because I refused to be underestimated ever again." He shifted uncomfortably, glancing at the watch glinting on my desk. "You build all this?" he asked finally, his voice quiet. "Every inch," I said, with no help from the people who thought I wasn't ready. For a long moment, he just sat there processing. I let the silence stretch, let him take in the leather chairs, the city view, the framed client campaigns lining the wall. "I suppose," he said slowly, "you're the one who decides if this deal moves forward." I tilted my head. "That's right. The future of your company, at least this particular project, sits right here." And for the first time, I saw it, the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. The man who once laughed at me now waited for my approval. I let the tension hang a beat longer before I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the desk. "Yes, Daniel," I said. "I am the decision maker, which means I get to choose whether I open the door for you or close it." He nodded stiffly, trying to keep his expression neutral. "Then tell me what it will take." The younger me might have smirked, might have wanted him to squirm the way I once did. But the woman I am now, she wanted something better, something that actually mattered. "I'll approve your proposal," I said carefully, "on 3 conditions." His eyebrows lifted. "I'm listening." "First," I said, "your agency must commit to a mentorship program for young women entering advertising. Paid internships. Fair opportunities. No dismissive gatekeeping from men in corner offices. He opened his mouth, but I held up a hand. Second, a written apology. Not to me, to your team. For every time you belittled a junior associate instead of guiding them. I don't need your words for my healing. I've already healed, but they need to see a leader who can own his mistakes. His jaw tightened, pride flaring. And the third, I smiled slightly. You personally will fund a Women in Business scholarship at my alma mater. We'll name it after my grandmother, Evelyn Gray. She believed in me when you didn't.
For a long moment, he didn't speak.
The pulse in his temple ticked. Then slowly he nodded. If I agree to all this, he said carefully, you'll sign? I'll sign, I confirmed. But understand something, Daniel, this isn't charity. This is the cost of doing business with me. His partner scribbled frantically, already drafting the addendum. Daniel just sat there, silent, staring at the silver watch on my desk like it held all the answers. Finally, he exhaled. You've built quite an empire, Madison. I built a life, I corrected softly. An empire was just the side effect. I stood, signaling the meeting was over. My assistant will get you the documents by tomorrow. Once those signatures are in place, we'll proceed. He rose too, slower this time. No trace of the old arrogance. For the first time since I'd met him, Daniel Brooks looked human. Thank you, he said quietly. I didn't smile. Don't thank me yet. Make it count. When they left, the room felt lighter somehow, like I'd just opened a window. The next morning, the signed documents landed on my desk. My assistant brought them in with a raised brow, like she knew this was more than just another deal. I picked up the papers, scanned them, then set them aside. My eyes went to the silver watch sitting beside my planner. I wound it slowly, hearing the faint tick echo in the quiet room. Grandma used to say time has a way of revealing who we really are. Back then, I thought she meant it would show me my place in the world, but now I understood. Time had shown me my strength, my resilience, and my worth. Later that week, I got an email from one of Daniel's junior staffers. A copy of the team-wide message he'd sent. I owe you an apology, it read. Over the years, I've let my pride and impatience turn me into a leader I'm not proud of. Effective immediately, we're starting a mentorship program for new hires because everyone deserves the chance to be heard. I stared at the words for a long time, surprised by the lump rising in my throat. I hadn't expected them to move me, but they did. That night, I walked home through the city streets, my heels clicking on the pavement, the air crisp against my skin. For the first time in years, I didn't feel that old knot of anger in my chest. In my apartment, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat by the window, looking out at the skyline, the same city that once chewed me up and spat me out. Only now, I wasn't the girl crying in a bathroom stall. I was the woman who turned pain into power, who built something from nothing, who chose grace when revenge would have been easy. I picked up the watch one last time, fastening it around my wrist. Its steady ticking felt like a victory drum. I smiled, whispering to the empty room, maybe to the city itself. He once mocked my experience. Now my signature decides his future.